And I went to the room and I saw a missed call from the doctor. And I knew that he was not going to call me to say Happy New Year. And so I just called Bob and said, there's a phone call and I have cancer. Like, he told me, come on, there can be a million things. I'm like, no, I know. When I recover from my reconstructions and everything, I start finding a job. And I was teaching at home, private classes. And then my daughter, the last year of COVID, really, she told me, why don't we do TikTok?
It starts with just taking that leap.
Man, you have to work hard. You have to be incredibly smart.
Choose something that even if it fails, you are going to be proud of it.
Doesn't matter how badly you got beaten in battle.
Be kind, be kind, be kind.
Become a better person, a better leader, a better business.
Go with your gut.
I'm Samuel Donner, and this is Finding Founders. We'll get back to the podcast right after this break. Success Story, hosted by Scott D. Clary, is brought to you by the HubSpot Podcast Network, the audio destination for business professionals. Success Story features Q&A sessions with successful business leaders, keynote presentations, and conversations on sales, marketing, business, startups, and entrepreneurship. There's a really great interview, one we actually did with Hala Taha, podcast host, entrepreneur, and speaker, on how she built a 7-figure side hustle and a #1 podcast. Hala is the CEO and founder of Yap Media, and she shares why adversity is key to building something great, what motivated her, the initial steps toward success, the differentiator that led to her success, and the formula for making someone famous, and much more. Listen to Success Story wherever you get your podcasts. And now, back to the podcast.
Stuck inside during the pandemic, Monica Mannion casually posted a TikTok. The posting isn't very unique. Hundreds of thousands of others posted videos similar to it. But Monica's had something special. After making one Tres-Leches cake and recording some video, Monica unexpectedly found herself with 30 million views, thousands of followers, and a dedicated fan base waiting for her next video. This might seem like an overnight success, but Monica honed her cooking skills over many years in many countries. From Argentina and South Africa to England and China, she's traveled all over the globe, starting culinary clubs and forming communities wherever she went. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. Monica's passion started long before she boarded her first flight in a home dominated by the heavy scent of roasted chilies and warm broth. Before all of this, I kind of want to go back to your roots in Mexico and talk about what cooking meant to you, and what it looked like when you were a kid.
I had a beautiful childhood surrounded by love and family. But there was something that really marked my childhood, and it was my mother's cancer. She had cancer over 20 years. And she was always sick, but at any little time that she was feeling better, she was in the kitchen. And that's when my aunts and the family used to come, and everything was surrounding by food. I was really a child that enjoyed her mom through the kitchen, and that definitely marked my life forever.
Yeah, what did the kitchen smell like? Do you have any specific memories from cooking with your aunts and your mom as a kid?
Always salsa. The time, like when she was roasting the tomatillos, roasting the chilies, the onions, the salsa, the way she did salsas was the best. She uses so many chilies, 20 chilies. And so my house was always, you were coughing, but you knew the salsa was going to be very good. And soup. I mean, the broth, the chicken, that always was telling us, oh, my mom is making soup. So I think the salsas and the soup really, they still spark something in me every time I smell.
Yeah, and you eventually moved out of Mexico City and moved into central Mexico. What started that move?
My parents decided to move out north to a small city. It's called Querétaro, 2 hours north. Very, very tiny. They decided to go. I stay because of the school.
What was it like staying in Mexico City? Because that's like without your parents and all that.
That was amazing because Mexico City had so many things to do for a young girl like me. So I had the time of my life and no control. There was no mom or dad telling you what to do. So I was really independent at that time. But on the other hand, I can tell you that there was fear to go with my parents because my mom's health was going down.
Yeah, what was happening?
Well, cancer was spreading to the point that we knew she was going to die. So my father called me and said, you have to come and help me. You have to come and enjoy your mom's last years. So we don't know how long she's going to be with us. You cannot escape from this. And it's good for you to come and just be with your mom. So I left everything and I moved to my parents' house.
And so what was it like coming back to home after so much had changed in your life?
It was really hard. One, the fear of seeing your mom dying. Two, just being independent to suddenly ask permission even to go out. But also realizing that my dad was going to be alone. And to get to know him and get to try to get into his feelings of what is going to happen when my mom is not here. So my younger sister, she left the school to be able to take care of my mother, which that was amazing for but at the same time it was time for her to go to school. So she went back and I took over a couple of months.
You have all this really heavy stuff going on, but there were also people that you were still meeting. And could you tell me about a man named Robert?
Yes. Well, my mom decided to stop chemotherapy. Chemo really makes you feel very sick all the time. So she kind of came to life a little bit, and at least she was awake most of the time. So my dad told me, you know what, you need a job. You need to start working. Just find a job, because also the money, that we spent during all that treatment was a lot. My dad was really struggling. So I decided to find a job, and I applied for a job that I didn't want to take. And they needed an assistant for the director that had very good English. So I applied, and they told me the interview was going to be with an American that was working there. And so his name was Robert, and he interviewed me, and we talked like for 2 hours. And later on, I just married this Robert.
Wait, how quickly did you guys get married after you met?
3 months.
We
met. We met. We worked together a couple of months. Then he asked me out. We dated for 3 months, and he asked me to marry.
Were you surprised?
When he asked me if I wanted to marry, I said no, because I thought he was joking. And I was like, no, I don't know you. You're kidding me. I know, because I never saw that coming. But he knew he was being sent to Argentina. So that was also one important, issue, that he was moving. And I guess he thought I was the one. So in my head, I was like, I'm going to say yes, but who knows? Maybe nothing happened. My mom and Robert got along so well. My mom loved him, and he talked to her about it. And my mom was like, I want you to marry my daughter. And my mom told me he's in love. So 6 months later, I married in a civil wedding, and a year after a church wedding. So yeah, 6 months.
But it seems like it's working out. So Argentina's still on the docket of like places that you're probably going to go. So what did it look like gearing up for Argentina?
My mother died a month after my wedding. Moving to Argentina was very, very, very dramatic and very difficult for me, because my family, they were mourning together, and I was alone, and I'm in another country far away from Mexico. So how am I going to do this? How am I going to find myself here without her? So I struggled so much during all that time. For a month, I just really didn't even want to walk in the streets of Argentina. I just wanted to cry. And then we got a house, and then, life started moving on. but it was hard.
How do you get yourself to start moving on?
I just needed something for me to feel closer to my family. And so I start thinking about food, because in Argentina, there's nothing spicy. There were not chiles. There was nothing really Mexican, no tortillas, nothing. And so my obsession of how am I going to recreate certain things with nothing, that started to move my, okay, I'm going to go here and there to see if I can find food. And it didn't go well. Couldn't find anything. So I asked my dad. My dad was coming to visit, and I asked him to bring everything, cans and maseca for tortillas, everything. And he came with a big box of cans and chilies and stuff. And I was like dying to cook, and me and Bob were so excited. I think that was the spark of me saying, wow, how many memories one ingredient can bring to me.
It's almost like the necessity of wanting that connection. It's like you almost need to cook to feel a connection. And so you start getting more and more into cooking. Can you tell me when you go to America?
Yeah, I got pregnant. The last year that I was in Argentina, I found out that I was pregnant, and we didn't have to have the baby so far away from our families. So Bob asked for the change to come here to Philadelphia, and I never really knew Bob's family that much, and he comes from a super huge Irish family. So it was kind of shocking to come. I had a baby, and I was by myself, pretty much in the hospital. I didn't know what I was doing, really. The baby was okay and everything went well. But then moving into a house with a baby, I got actually a little bit of depression, postpartum depression. And that was really hard because there was nobody to talk about what's happening. Why do I feel like this? Like, I want to be a mom so much, but at the same time, I feel this sadness inside. So it was everything, not having my mom, thinking about, if I had my mom, she will be helping me. So it was really hard for me. And that's why I started to look into something more spiritual. I grew up as a Catholic school, actually, a very Catholic family. Losing my mom, my religion was not helping me to cope with the thoughts and the feelings. And I just started taking yoga because I wanted to do something different. And I started doing yoga. And there was a teacher, and she started talking about the living and dying. And I started crying like crazy. And she told me at the end of the class, what's going on? Can I help you? And I said, I lost my mom, and I don't know how to cope with this. And everything that you were reading opened my senses. And so my teacher gave me this book that is called The Tibetan Book of Living and Dying. And that changed my life forever. Everything. I just devoured the whole book. I read it like twice in English and Spanish. And suddenly Buddhism came to my life.
What drew you to it? Like what was so profound?
It was where do we go when we die? Everybody at my mom's funeral was like, oh, your mom is watching you from heaven, and your mom is always going to be with you, blah, blah, blah. And that I actually suffered so much from that, because I was like, how can my mom be looking down to me and I'm crying all the time and I'm unhappy and I'm just not well? I struggled so much thinking about that when reincarnation came to me and learning about the meaning of your life, going to another life, that changed completely, because then I understood why my mom died in such a young age, and the way that everything that Buddhism explains about dying just made sense to me. And who will say that later in life that was going to actually help me so much?
So you have this incredible transformation through Buddhism, and you stay 4 years in America, but then you leave. Why do you leave?
Well, we worked 4 years in Philadelphia. I had also my son here. When my son was 9 months, they sent us to Mexico and to the same city, to the same company. Bob was going to be the director there. And so that was so nice, because we were expats in Mexico. So that is the best. They pay for everything, the house, the schools. And that was amazing, coming back and bringing my kids to actually go to school, learn Spanish, and spend time with my family and their culture. So those 4 years were amazing. And also, I think that they gave me an opportunity to come back a little bit more mature.
Yeah, and I mean, you also got into yoga and cooking when you were there, right? You were making like sweetbread. So like, can you tell me a little bit how that all occurred?
Yeah, when I was in Philadelphia, I decided to take the certification as a yoga trainer. So when I went back to Mexico, I wanted to do that. So I needed to learn all the poses in Spanish. So I need to do a couple of more hours to be able to teach. But then I was teaching from my house. I had a beautiful room to teach yoga, and I was famous for that. But at the same time, there was always the cooking part in the back. I wanted to learn while I was in Mexico, and I love sweetbread. One of the most amazing things in the Mexican culinary world is their sweetbreads. So I wanted to find a school where the panaderos, as we call them, the people that make bread, like 3 o'clock in the morning for everybody to have fresh bread in the morning, they were taking classes. So that's the place that I wanted to go. So I found this place, and I started taking the classes with them, and that was the best ever because it's the first time that I saw my creativity and my imagination and my hands going into a dough.
I mean, it's super exciting. Like you're really developing these skills. So you're a baker now, and I want to go to England because you would go to culinary school there and become a chef, right?
Yeah, after Mexico, I moved to South Africa, actually. So that was a big change. I was like, where are we going to live? And what are we going to do? And where my kids are going to go to school? So it was very extreme move to go to South Africa. But then when you get there, and as soon as you land, as soon as you see, as soon as you hear, Africa embraces you in a way that not many countries did to me. I felt surrounded by people that just have love for other people, and they were very kind and very nice. And I can tell you that the 4 of us, our favorite place until today was South Africa. Very nice and beautiful. And I had the opportunity to explore. We travel a lot, but also in a culinary way. I found this amazing expat group of women that they got together every month. They were cooking by country and setting beautiful tables. And I joined them. And one of them told me, you have to go to culinary school. This is what you do, your passion, what you bring is amazing. And I'm sure that you would love to be a teacher. You love to teach. When you teach your class, it's amazing for us. And then I went to England, and the shock of being in Africa and then moving to England is big. It's like super big. Everything's so expensive. Everything was like very different from me. Most of the women work, and so I was there at the gym just by myself with no friends, with a phone empty. I didn't have any contacts, and I got a little bit depressed for a couple of months. Nobody to go and explore London, just myself. My kids were pretty much all day in school and my husband working. So again, me was, myself was just facing the change and the move, which is very, very dramatic. I mean, move from country to country brings you joy, but it's very difficult and it takes time. I started exploring cooking classes, but first I decided to also do my own cooking club. And it was a way to meet people. So again, I had 12 women from different backgrounds cooking together every month. And then I started exploring, and I knew I was going to be a longer time this time. And so I went to Cambridge, and there was a chef there with a school, the culinary school of Cambridge. And I decided to join and start from the basics that I didn't know. I already had a lot of experience cooking because all these years cooking and taking all kinds of cooking classes. But I needed to come to the basics.
How does the course unfold? How are you liking it, and how you do?
I loved everything. When every time we knew a new chef, I was just so into the chef. And I remember there was this woman that came to teach us some a bread class, an Italian woman, Ursula Ferrigno, that's her name. And I look at her and I just thought, oh my God, I've seen her before. So I knew she was famous in Europe, but I'd never heard of her before. So I went back home, and when I left Mexico, my friends gave me this box full of presents to remember from them. But I found a book in Spanish, and it was Ursula's book translated in Spanish that is called Pan. When I saw the book, I cried so much. I'm like, how I am taking classes with this woman. So I took the book to her the next day, and I said, you were supposed to be in my life. Look. And she never saw that book in Spanish before, and she signed the book, and she told me how. I'm like, somebody gave me this book in Mexico when I left, and I knew these kind of signs from life. They were telling me, you're in the right part. This is what you're going to do.
How did you pursue that? Like, how did you try to make that a reality? And especially because, you know, as your time in, you know, Cambridge and England was coming to an end, like, how are you thinking about your future and cooking? Actually,
I didn't know when what was gonna end, but the school gave me every Friday late at night. They were giving opportunities to chefs and students to teach a class, and other chefs and people from outside, from Cambridge, they were coming in and try the food. And so one of the teachers told me, why don't you teach a Mexican class? You always talk about Mexican food is not what people think. So show me Mexican food. So I prepare a contemporary class, Mexican contemporary food, because Mexican food is not tacos and nachos and beans and rice. Mexican food is one of the most important foods in the world. But somehow people just thinking about this box of tacos. And so I wanted to show people how it can be actually a really high and beautiful and delicious and gourmet style. So I did this class, and I prepared all the dishes, and I presented the class in front of 12 people, 6 chefs, six other people random. And I was shaking like crazy, and I just had a shot of tequila before teaching the class because I was shaking. But as soon as they'd say my name, like, here's Monica Mannion, who's going to teach a class? Welcome, Monica Mannion. And they start clapping, and everything dropped. My nerves, everything. I just left everything behind, and I came out like, you know, even moving, you know, my hair like a star. I'm like, here I am. I'm going to show you what Mexican food is for me. And the class went smooth, and everybody, I mean, they cook with you. And so I was here in each table, and we had the most wonderful dinner, Mexican dinner. And when everybody left, I cried so much in the back. And I'm like, this is what I want to do. I am meant to teach. This is what I want to do. And so I was teaching a couple of classes before I found out that I was moving to China.
We'll get back to the podcast right after this break. Companies are under pressure, and business leaders like you need more leads, faster sales, and better insights to nurture customers. They don't have time to waste on long, complex implementation or money to waste on software no one will actually use. They need a CRM, but not just any CRM, one that is easy to set up and customize to the way your company does business. Hey, the CRM exists. It's called HubSpot. Easy to use and integrate, HubSpot CRM is easy for everyone to use and helps teams to do more with less. HubSpot has 1,300 plus integrations that are easy to add. Customize it to adapt to the way you do business as you grow without months of custom dev work. HubSpot CRM's powerful tools will help marketers wow prospects, sales teams lock in deals, and service teams improve response times. Get started for free at HubSpot.com. And now, back to the podcast.
It feels like it's just like a bomb dropped on you. You're like, oh, like, now how do I recover?
Yes.
Like, what does it feel like to realize that you're going to China? Like, that seems even more maybe a culture shock than any of the places that you've been before.
Every time my husband said, we need to talk, I just knew something, the bomb was going to be dropped. And I was like, where are we going? So I don't know why, but after 4 years, I already knew something was coming because 4 years was the limit of being in a country. So I knew something was coming, but I didn't know it was going to be China. When he said China, I was like, what? It's like, what? But one thing came to my head, Buddhism. And I said, yes, we need to go. China was a place that was giving me every single opportunity in my career, but also the best that can happen to me regarding my spirituality.
What did the career opportunities look like, and what did the opportunities to grow closer to your faith look like?
I arrived there, first country that I do not understand a thing. I cannot read anything. Going to the grocery stores, can you imagine just trying to find sugar and you don't even know how to say sugar and you don't understand anything? So it was a big shock, culturally big shock. And again, the kids went to the American school. My husband went to work, and here I am facing China, and everything that is completely different from anywhere else you've been in your life. As soon as I met people in the school, I asked around who likes cooking. I'm going to do a cooking club, and who wants to cook with me. And that
was so successful in the last
That was
country.
super
You're like,
successful.
all right, let's do it again. Run it back.
South Africa, England, here you go. Cooking club in Shanghai. Suddenly people eager to be part of my club, and people from other backgrounds and other cultures. And so I have here again with 10 women, beautiful women, and we cry, we talk, we share, we love each other. And then I started teaching private classes. And I kind of was mouth to mouth. Everybody was just knowing who Monica Mannion was, and they were coming to my classes in my house, which I just loved it. And then suddenly one was in a magazine and they wanted to write articles about me. And then another one had a show on the TV about expats and cooking. So they invited me to the TV show, and I was like in heaven. And so I went to the Shanghainese TV for this show. So I was on TV. And then I met the Mexican consul wife. And then, she gave me the opportunity to cook in their residence for their private event. So my career was going like up. And I was so...
How are you feeling about that?
I couldn't believe. I was just in heaven. I really... I never imagined China was going to give me this opportunity at the same time that it was giving me a chance to help, because every country that I've been, I do charity or I work as a volunteer every single country. And China was also giving me a big opportunity to be a volunteer too. And so everything was going well and amazing in my career. But the busier I was, the less time I was giving my family. So it was like kind of sweet and sour.
How did you deal with that or balance that?
Well, suddenly I had so much work, and I was so busy that my kids were eating pizza. And here I am, the chef, trying to teach everybody to eat healthy. And I was coming home and I just didn't want to cook. I just didn't have time to cook. So I was really enjoying this moment of success, but then really not paying attention to what really I love, my kids, and of course my family, my husband. But you don't notice that until I got a news about my health.
Yeah, well, how did you get that news?
So I was going to Bali for New Year, for Christmas with my family, and I had my doctor's appointment, and I had a lot of allergies, so I went there, and I told her that I felt a little lump under my underarm, very close to my breast, and I said, this is bothering me. I don't know, should I be worried or not? Because I tend to check myself because of my mom, and my grandma also had cancer. And she told me, yeah, just there's something in there, but I don't think it's something important. But why don't you just go and have an ultrasound and let's check this. So I went there, and she saw the ultrasound, and she told me, I think we need a a mammogram. And I went there, and then she told me there's a Scottish doctor coming from Hong Kong, and he's very good. I want you to see him and take the mammogram and see what he thinks. Don't be scared. I really don't think it's just nothing bad. It can be whatever, but I don't think it's something bad. He told me, and he's like, I don't think it's, just don't worry. For your peace of mind, let's do a biopsy. So come to Hong Kong and let's do a biopsy. So I called my husband and said, they want me to go to Hong Kong. And this is crazy. We leave, that was a Wednesday. We leave on Friday for Bali. But I need to go. So I went, they did the biopsy. And he told me, I don't see why you have to worry. So just go. If I don't call you, we'll talk when you come back. So I left. But in the back of your head, and your mom with cancer and your grandma with cancer, there's always something. So Christmas went, and December 27th, I was swimming in the pool. My kids were having breakfast. And I was going to take a shower, and I went to the room, and I saw a missed call from the doctor. And I knew that he was not going to call me to say Happy New Year. And so I just called Bob and said, there's a phone call, and I have cancer. Like, he told me, come on, there can be a million things. I'm like, no, I know. So I called him back, and he was like so concerned. He was in India spending Christmas with his family. And he told me, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry that I have to do this call, but I also know that your families are on the other side of the world, and you probably need help. And yes, it is cancer. You have breast cancer, and I want to take the tumor out as soon as possible, as soon as you come back. So call your family, and I'm so sorry that I'm doing this phone call. And then I was like, what? And when they say cancer, and then you see yourself dead. I saw my mom, so I saw my grandmother, so I was like, this is it for me, and I'm gonna die. So I called my family, and I called Bob's family, and my in-laws came right away to take care of the kids. So as soon as I came back, I went into surgery, and they took just a tumor, and they sent me to the best oncologist in Hong Kong to get a treatment. And because of my mother and my grandmother having cancer, and the way my cancer was going, it was just not metastasized or anything, but it was just very dangerous. So I received a very, very, very strong treatment. And they gave me the choice of having also Chinese medicine, alternative medicine, along with the chemotherapy, which I said yes. Things were as hard as they were, as dramatic as cancer can be. I was learning every day from everything they do, everything they eat. Why do they eat like that? Why do you have to eat like that when you have cancer? I mean, it was another world for me, and funny, but it was related about food again. So taking my life, a healing part of my life with food. And so yes, I learned a lot. I took the Chinese diet along my treatment, and here I am 6 years later, and healed, and I reinvented myself in a completely different way.
How are you going to be better moving forward when you are better?
I think that the thing that is number one is I just take a day at a time. When I got the news that I had cancer, the first thing that I thought, other than, oh my God, I'm going to die, it's like, okay, remember that book that you read about living and dying? Remember everything that you learned from that book? Well, this is it. You read that book for a reason. Now, can you do everything that you read? Can you really put that into your life? And then I start really building, how do I want to die? And facing the dying process like we all should do, because we're all going to die, without fear, but embracing the life to die with dignity as much as you can. So I think that is what changed. And now it's the new me What I do not want to bring again, not having time for my kids and for my family. Just really putting a good perspective about priorities. That's what I just want to accomplish.
As COVID is coming around the corner, how are you dealing with it, and what do you decide to do? Like, what does the shutdown look for you?
Before COVID, when I recovered from my reconstructions and everything, I start finding a job. And I was teaching at home, private classes, very happy with a lot of people coming to my house to learn. And I was happy because I was at home with my kids, but still, working. And then I applied to a cookery school. There was a cookery school in Philadelphia, very famous. And I started working in there. The name is Cook, and there's a lot of the chefs on the East Coast teaching there. And I just applied, and they took me, and I was the happiest girl teaching in there. And suddenly, COVID came, and everything shut it down. So nobody wanted to come. I couldn't go, so everything changed for everybody. I started working in a hospital for a year as a medical interpreter because I already was doing my certification. So I work at the hospital helping doctors to communicate with patients during COVID, which it was meant to be. And again, I'm doing a volunteering, but this time as a job, not a volunteering, but as a job. And then my daughter, which she was already in the social media thing. I had a small Instagram, bilingual, which was not really taking over because of being bilingual and not really. Some people don't like that, but I just kept showing what I was cooking and showing pictures on Instagram. And my daughter told me the last year of COVID, really, she told me, why don't we do TikTok? And I was like, no, it's just too noisy. It's for younger people. They dance, they scream. I just don't want to do this. Not at all. She told me, no, there's a lot of cooks, and I think it will be good for you for Instagram and for you to get to take your name out there, Monica. You have to. She calls me Monica sometimes. And I was like, oh, so what are we going to do? And she told me, no, go watch TikTok and see what you want to do. See other cooks and see what do you want to do. So I took a couple of weeks looking through TikTok and then looking for cooks and what people were doing. And some people had a style, other people just were cooking, and a lot of views and a lot of followers. So I told Sophia, okay, let's do this. I'm going to do it in Spanish because I want to do something really just in Spanish. And I don't want to show my face. I just want people to see me, my hands, and my voice. And because TikTok is so noisy, I want to, when they come to me, I want my voice to be very low and very slow so they understand the recipe. Okay, so we did the first video. It was a tres leches cake. And after a couple of weeks, it had millions of views. Right now it has, I think, 30 million views right now. And then we started doing another one and another one and another one and millions and millions and millions of views. And in no time, 100,000 followers. And then TikTok contact me and then they say, we want you to work with us. And then I was like, what? And then people were following me on Instagram, and from 900 followers that I had forever, in 3 years, I only had 900 followers. Suddenly it's 37,000 right now, and it's keep growing every day. And then 2+ million on TikTok, which opened the door and has been opening the door for business. And amazingly, a name out there. A lot of doors are open now in the collaborations and monetizing things that I never imagined I was going to do. But also keeping this simple way of home cooking that gets so much close to my family and my mother.
If you were to give one piece of advice to someone who wants to have food be more at the center of their life, if they're, trying to be either a food influencer on TikTok or just break into the culinary scene, what piece of advice would you give to that person?
If you really are into social media and you want to try it, first go deep inside. See What do you want and how do you want to? And plan, write, look out there other videos and see what would you like to do. I have a lot of young people they're joining TikTok and they want to monetize and they want to do this as a business. And they all ask me, how do you deal with hate? That is the number one question I always get. How do you deal with the comments and hate? Which I don't really have much. I actually probably don't have not at all. Just a couple of comments. And I always say, once you open the door to reply a comment that is hurting you, then you open the door for them to hurt you more. So you never reply a comment that is meant to hurt you. And just get inspired, but at the end, just look deep inside. What's in there? What do you like?
Thank you so much for listening. If you haven't already, make sure to subscribe, rate the podcast 5 stars, and share with a friend. If you have any questions or comments, DM us at Finding Founders Podcast on Instagram, LinkedIn, or Facebook. Finding Founders is produced and hosted by me, Samuel Donner.
Our Chief of Staff and Operations is Jessica Lynn.
Our audio editing team lead is Adrian Tapia, with support from
Irene Van Berkel,
Matt Fernandez,
Renee Buchanan,
Sophia Donner,
David Saide,
Ashley Jimenez,
Nicholas Guzman,
Aaron Devereaux,
Sanessa Gisley,
and Lois Choi.
Our outreach and research lead is Kenny Ong, with support from
Sarah Hobson,
Charisse Tan,
Harushi Kanauchi,
Kristen Hagelin,
Aya Cortez,
and Valencia Lu.
Our writing team lead is Elizabeth Bowen with support from
Aiden Ashworth,
Nikki McCullough,
Sylvie Wang,
and Eric Mena.
Our design team lead is Shruti Ramanand with support from
Tiffany Dang,
Yao Liu,
and Dina Gabriel.
To see more of what we're up to, subscribe to our newsletter at findingfounders.co. Thanks again for listening, and see you next week.